Hi, and welcome to the summary section of Lesson 2 of the presentation unit in English in the Modern Office. This week, we have finished an important unit of the course, using presentations. Hopefully, you now have a kickstart on how to succeed in a modern international office. The work we've done so far should, with a little practice, help you to overcome any fears you might have of public speaking and help you to deliver amazing presentations. So what have we shown you this week? Let's recap on what we've learned. We outlined that it's absolutely vital, both in presentations and in general, that any charts we create clarify and provide the right visual for any analysis. You should now hopefully understand the reasons why you might need a chart and how to choose the right chart to show the data for your presentation. I hope you can remember the 5 easy questions that help you to decide which chart to use. To summarize those 5 questions, question 1, do you want to compare values? Consider using the following types of graphs: column, bar, circular area, line, scatter plot, or a bar chart. Question 2, do you want to show the composition of something? To show composition, we might use a pie chart, a stacked bar chart, a stacked column chart, an area chart, or a waterfall chart. Question 3, do you want to understand the distribution of your data? Distribution charts help us to understand outliers, those biggest and smallest numbers in our set of data. Again, we might choose any one of the following charts to show distribution: a scatter plot chart, a line chart, a column chart, or a bar chart. Question 4. Are you interested in analyzing the trends in your dataset? If you need to know more information about how your dataset performed during a specific time period, you should choose from line charts, dual axis line charts, or column charts. Question 5. Do you need to understand the relationship between value sets? Ideal for showing how one variable relates to one or several different variables, consider using one of these charts: a scatter plot chart, a bubble chart, or a line chart. The lesson went on to describe how we conclude your presentation. The third part of the lesson covered how we did this. Leaving a good impression is essential, and what comes at the end is usually what's remembered the most. In the lesson, however, we questioned this, outlining that what is critical is to ensure the message that we want to convey is the most memorable part of our presentation. Part 3 of the lesson covered the use of tautograms, the power of 3, and how organizations usually use famous voices. Using famous people voices for slogans. The lesson covered how famous people often use their voices in advertisements, or even directly in front of the camera. Celebrities on camera included Neil Patrick Harris, when he tried to talk us into drinking Heineken. Matthew McConaughey eulogizes about driving a Lincoln. Channing Tatum is very funny Mountain Dew commercial. Alison Brie and Adam Scott for their Smirnoff Ice advertisement. Celebrities whose voices became synonymous with the product include Carlsberg, probably the best lager in the world, Orson Welles. Budweiser, this is the famous Budweiser beer, George Clooney. And Duracell, trusted everywhere, Jeff Bridges. Remember how I said in the introduction that by using the celebrity's voice, we can often make something more memorable. Made more memorable? This was also how I explained what a tautogram was, or is, at the same time as utilizing the power of 3. No, wait. Let's talk about what a tautogram is again. The tautogram. Let's recap in detail here, as using tautograms is important. Use them correctly and you'll stand out from the crowd. A tautogram is text in which all words start with the same letter. They are similar to alliterations, where the words all sound similar. The difference between a tautogram and alliteration is that tautograms are written, visual word devices, whereas alliterations are phonetic. They are sound. In most cases, alliterations are also tautograms, though certainly not all, since different letters can frequently take on the same sound. We use the examples of circle segment or catch your ken. See how, when spoken, the C and the S sound the same. Similarly, most tautograms are also alliterations, although exceptions exist when using letters that have multiple pronunciation. Remember too, onomatopoeia, words that when spoken sounds like what they mean. Words like meow, honk, or boom. We also covered in the lesson the power of three. And we included some famous examples to help you remember the rule. Just do it, Nike. I'm loving it, McDonald's. Voorsprong durch Techniek, Audi. The ultimate driving machine, BMW, and Every Little Helps, Tesco in the UK. Remember, the power of three is not limited to slogans. Courage, conviction, and creativity would use the power of three, and it's a tautogram as well. Now remember to conclude when you do your conclusion, end it with a bang, just like the beginning. Your final words have to do much more than simply tell them the presentation is over. The audience is itching to go. Maybe it's lunchtime. Remember, it's the last impression that often stays the longest. So think, how do you prepare a strong ending for your presentation? My advice, make sure your presentation is just before lunch, and then provide that lunch. Answering difficult questions over a pastry and a cup of tea is nearly always a winner in my experience. Be sure that the decision makers can stick around for lunch. Remember to plan your conclusion carefully. Your conclusion must reinforce your key messages. It must sound like a conclusion, leaving no doubt that it is the conclusion. It must add to the positive impression that hopefully you'll have created with your audience. You see how I changed has to into must. Repetition, repetition, repetition. It's just like your main message that was outlined in your introduction, gone through in detail in the presentation, and is now being summarized in your conclusion. Finally, remember your conclusions should be short. I say again, don't ramble. Endings that drag on almost certainly undo much of the good from your otherwise great presentation. Once you announce you're about to wind up, just do it. To conclude our lesson on conclusions and quote a famous American cartoonist, that's all, folks. But wait, again, we haven't done the bit about questions. Like many people doing presentations, I was leaving the questions till the very end. Is this wise? So, what about the questions? In the introduction and in the lesson, we covered in some detail how to deal with questions. My advice here, use the ABC method. Look back again at the introduction video for details. You can watch these videos as many times as you like. How do we answer those nasty questions? Remember the basic pointers when answering questions. These summarize down into always answer briefly and to the point. Anticipate your questions. Learn how to deal with interruptions. And if you're not sure what somebody said, then reform the question in your own words to check your understanding. Again, if you choose to leave your questions to the end, then make sure you have finished answering them all and that you get the last word and you strongly assert your main message. Thank the audience for their questions and then summarize once again the main point or points that your presentation was designed to communicate. At the beginning, I asked you to think about this. Is it possible to end your presentation somehow, leaving your audience with just 3 words? I like to finish with, thanks for listening.